Good morning, seventh grade math. It is Wednesday morning. Today we're going to talk about integers. We're going to skip ahead a little bit, go to chapter 3, lesson 1, I'm sorry, and talk about integers a little bit and get into adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Just looking at our lessons and a little bit I talked about in my little message to you yesterday was just trying to find some things that lend themselves to be taught a little better remotely. And I think this is one of those things, and it's an important thing where we're going to keep seeing positive and negative numbers, and we need to know how to deal with them, right? So real quick here, I'm hoping to keep this under 10 minutes, and if you need to pause and come back to it, that's fine. We're going to look at integers, right? An integer is any number from the set, and that's right there, right? And that's basically goes on indefinitely either direction. So they're essentially any numbers that fall in the number line, right? Any whole number and their opposite would be an integer, right? An integer is any number from the set. There you go. There's a picture of it. You can have a little makeshift number line here, and if you have a number line, you have a 0 in the middle. Numbers to the right are positive, and numbers to the left are negative. Examples of integers: -4, 0, 5 would be examples. Non-examples would be 1/2, 2/10, and 10%. Those are not integers, right? Again, another view of a number line here. When we have the blue numbers on the right are positive, so everything to the right would be positive, everything to the left is negative. Again, sometimes you'll see number lines that are drawn vertically like this, right? And you have 0 there. In that case, everything above here would be positive, and everything below the 0 is negative. And so if you're thinking of maybe a thermometer, that's how you'd view that, right? So I want to talk about integers and absolute value for a quick minute here, and then we'll get into addition of adding integers, right? So we're going to write an integer for each situation, right? The average temperature of 5 degrees below normal, right? So if we're writing 5 degrees below normal, our integer would be -5. An average rainfall of 5 inches above normal, we would just write that as +5, or like you've been writing numbers your whole life. When it's a positive number, you don't have to write the plus, you just write 5, right? Pretty simple concept there. Sometimes you'll be asked to graph a set of integers, and you'll be given a line. And again, just kind of do your best to look at your numbers here. You got 4, -6, and 0. So you could even, depending on how you want to label them, I could even go 2 and 4 there, right? Just skip 1, -2, -4, and sorry, I'm going to stick with my color theme here. So it'd be -2, -4, -6. And then to graph these, essentially we are just identifying, we know those are where they're at. That's graphing a number line, right? When we talk about absolute value, right? When we talk about absolute value, this is pretty important, right? Absolute value is the absolute value of a number is the distance between the number and 0 on a number line, right? So if I have a number line, and okay, so if I'm looking at say 3. Okay. I say what's the absolute value of 3? Well, if it is 3 away from 0, right? So the absolute value of 3 is 3. If I'm looking at the absolute value of negative 3, it is also 3 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value of negative 3 is also 3, right? And you would write those. I'm going to separate these just a hair here. So if I would say absolute value is, you'll see those like vertical lines on either side of it. So that means absolute value. So if it asks you, what is the absolute value of negative 3? Well, how far is negative 3 away from 0 on a number line? Well, it's 3 spaces away. What's the absolute value of 3? Well, sorry about that. 3 is also 3 spaces away. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. Pretty easy, right? Sometimes you'll have some problems, like you'll see the absolute value of negative 5 minus the absolute value of negative 2. Well, we know the absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of negative 2 is 2, so the answer there would be 3. Pretty easy. Try one more. So I have 2 plus absolute value of negative 3. Well, it'd be 2 plus the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, so our answer is 5. All right. 3 is also, whoops. Moving on to adding integers, okay? Moving on to adding integers. And all right. In the interest of time, I'm going to kind of skip a little bit here and get to this. We're going to add integers with the same sign, right? So when I say add integers with the same sign, I just mean if the answers are, if your integers are both positive or both negative, here's what we do, right? 2 steps, right? And sorry. If they're positive, so to add integers with the same sign, add their absolute values. The sum, okay, is positive if both integers are positive, and negative if both integers are negative, right? So let's make sense. Try to make sense of that. If I have 7 plus 4, guys, you've been doing this your whole life, right? Both integers are positive. Your answer is going to be positive, right? On your right, you have negative 7 plus negative 4. Well, you add the integers, you add them. So just think of their absolute values. What's the absolute value of negative 7? Well, it's 7. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Add that together, 11. But our original values here are negative. So if both integers are negative, your answer is going to be negative. Okay? All right. Let's take a closer look at this with a number line. So I have negative 3 plus negative 2, right? And here's a kind of makeshift number line, okay? So I'm going to start at 0. I'm going to move 3 units down, 1, 2, 3, and that's where I'm starting at negative 3, right? Now I'm adding negative 2 to it, right? I'm going 2 more negative spaces, right? And get my answer to negative 5, right? So that's using a number line. That's how I would do it. If I was using kind of what we talked up here, both my integers are negative, right? Both my integers are negative. So I add their absolute values, 3 plus 2, and I get 5. And they are, my original values are negative, so my answer is going to be negative. That's how we got negative 5, okay? Let's try a couple examples here, okay? Negative 6 plus negative 26 plus negative 17, okay? And again, both Both integers are negative. So sum will be negative, right? So essentially what I'm doing is 26 plus 17, I get 43. But since both my integers are negative, my answer is going to be negative, negative 43. Okay. About letter A, negative 7, or negative 5 plus negative 7 is negative 12. Negative 10 plus negative 4, both integers are negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Negative 14 plus negative 16, both integers are negative, add them together, negative 30. Okay. Now, so that's pretty simple, right? And here's where so when we start talking about adding integers with different signs is where we get just a little more complicated. So to add integers with different signs, we're going to subtract their absolute values. Okay, we're going to subtract their absolute values. Okay, that means the sum is positive if the positive integer's absolute value is greater, or it's going to be negative if the sorry, I'm trying to get fancy here. So it's positive if the integer's value, absolute value is greater, and it's negative if the negative integer's value, absolute value is greater, right? So let's look at this first example here. My signs are different, right? I have 9 plus negative 4, right? So when I'm adding integers, different signs, right? We're going to subtract their absolute values, right? So my absolute value of 9 is 9. I'm going to subtract. The absolute value of negative 4 is 4, right? So 9 minus 4, we know equals 5. Now, our sum is going to be positive if the positive integer's absolute value is greater, or negative if the negative integer's value is greater. So we're looking up here. Which value is greater? Well, it's 9, and so our answer is going to be positive. Okay, our answer is going to be positive. Okay, let's look at this one. Same numbers, right? Same numbers. The signs are different, right? So the absolute value of negative 9 is 9 minus 4. Same thing. We get 5. We look up here. What value is greater? Well, what's the absolute value is greater? Well, it's 9, and the 9 is negative, so my answer is negative. Okay. Let's try one with a number line. Okay. This says find 5 plus negative 3. Okay, 5 plus negative 3. So again, I'm always starting at 0. So if I go to 5, right, I'm at 5. Now I'm adding a negative 3. So if I add negative 3, that means I'm going to go back 3 spaces, right? I go back 3 spaces to positive 2. And that's where I'm at, and that's what my answer is. Okay. All right, let's try a couple of these on the next page. Okay. So I have 6 plus negative 7, right? So again, I'm going to subtract. Okay. 6 minus 7, we know is negative 1, right? Letter E. I have 15. I'm subtracting. Remember, subtract absolute values, right? 15 minus 19 we know is negative 4. And these are unique in that they already give us we don't have to worry about even looking back at the original problem. We know those. We know that's. I'm sorry. I'll back up 15 seconds here. So let's think about this. This one. I'm going to take, let's subtract their absolute values. And in this case, when you're subtracting the absolute values, do it this way. Go 19 minus 15 equals 4. We know the larger absolute value is 19, and it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive. Okay, it's a good way to look at it. Let's look at number 5. Okay, I have 7 plus negative 7. Okay, subtract their absolute values. 7 minus 7 equals 0. And if you think about that, if you have 7 and you're adding a negative 7, or if you have a negative 7 and you add 7, you're going to get 0, right? Number 6, I have, again, subtract your absolute values. 8 minus 3 equals 5, right? And since negative 8 over here has a larger absolute value, my answer is going to be negative. Okay? A couple more here. So again, here we have a couple. You know, we have three integers here we have to deal with. Let's just handle. And you can really do this however you'd like. You can really do this however you'd like. I'm looking at these numbers: 2 plus negative 2, or 2 plus negative 15 plus negative 2. Well, I look at these two, and if I did 2 plus negative 2, what do I get? Well, that's a 0, right? So I know 0 plus negative 15 is going to be negative 15, right? Let's try F, G, and H. 10 plus negative 12, right? Again, you can subtract their absolute values. Always put the larger number first here. 12 minus 10 equals 2. 12 has the higher absolute value. It's negative, so my answer is going to be negative. Absolute value, subtract. 18 minus 13, always do the larger absolute value first. 18 minus 13 is 5. The larger absolute value is 18, and that is positive, so my answer is going to be positive. And one more. We have, again, similar to the one up above, we have negative 6. Let's worry about this first. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0, so negative 14 plus 0 is negative 14. Okay. That's all I got for today. Email me if you have questions. Go back and rewatch this if you have questions. I'm going to attach an assignment. It's a Google slide. Okay, and what I want you to do on the Google slide, I only want you to do the problems that involve addition, right? So there's a few on there that have subtraction on there. There's about half and half. So only do the ones that have addition. Only do the ones that have addition. Okay? Email me if you have questions. Take care. Have a good day, guys.